Our inspirational reading today, the reading comes from George Bernard Shaw. He says, "I am of the opinion that life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me. It's sort of a splendid torch, which I've got to hold up for the moment, and I want to make it burn brightly as possible before handing it to future generations."
Welcome to those of you who may have just arrived in the sanctuary. As Janelle said earlier, the overarching theme of 2019 is spirituality in action. And we are once again joining and aligning with hundreds of other CSLs across the world to bring forward this theme powerfully into our communities. Now, the 2019 monthly themes were based on the 10 prophetic justice principles that were developed by Reverend James Forbes, who is currently at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Now, they speak to a way that spiritual communities, or actually individuals, can act for social justice from a spiritual consciousness. This sounds great, yes? Now, I'm going to have to look at this maybe to get this right, but CSL's Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee, got it? Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee believes that they give these themes that we're going to be talking about over the year, give our centers a wealth of resources and materials to stand firmly grounded in our science of mind principles as we engage in action out in the world. Now, each month we're going to look at how these different themes touch us individually and collectively, and how we can use them to create a world that works for everyone. Now, the 10 prophetic justice principles include integrity, which invites us to be truthful in facts and motive. Diversity, which encourages us to promote diversity and inclusion. Oneness, which invites us to seek the common good. Compassion, which invites us to care for the poor. Empowerment, which encourages us to protect the vulnerable. Creativity, which invites us to advocate for freedom of thought. Gratitude, which requires respect for all other nations and all other people. Love, which encourages us to ensure the stewardship of the planet. Unity, which invites us to cherish the human family. And spirituality, which invites us to step into spiritually driven moral leadership. Then, what we're doing is sandwiching these 10 themes with January, in which we are talking about the core foundational science of mind principles, and December, in which we are going to celebrate the holy holidays of Ruhatsu, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, solstice, and Christmas. Sounds amazing, right? Sounds like a really fabulous year. I don't know about all y'all, but I'm excited. I'm excited. Did I show my Southern, all y'all? Now, if you looked at the program or saw the newsletter that came out early in the month, you know that initially my talk title for today was The Thing Itself. However, I was really called to speak about this idea of spirituality in action and how to bring this this idea powerfully into our everyday lives. Now, the upcoming week then becomes an opportunity for you to get really excited about the combined topic of the thing itself and how it works, those things that I'm going to talk about next week. Spirituality is a broad concept with room for many different perspectives. In general, it includes a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves. It is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to being concerned about material or physical things. It typically involves a search for meaning in life. And as such, then it becomes really a universal human experience, something that touches all of us. Action is doing something for a particular purpose. So if we take both of these together, spirituality in action, we are taking our awareness of something bigger than ourselves out into the world for a particular reason. Now, for many people on our planet today, times are tough. Many are suffering from poverty or dis-ease, discrimination, violence, anger, despair, addiction, inhumanity, irresponsibility towards the planet and other species, and all kinds of isms such as racism and sexism. The media is filled with examples of natural disasters or crime or corruption or other kinds of tragedies. Others are finding the political turmoil of the current times to be very difficult to deal with, filled with decisiveness and separation and blame from all sides. Many people are struggling to maintain a sense of balance and poise, and others are feeling overwhelmed and increasingly hopeless. This is all compounded by the fact that information spreads faster and farther than ever before in history. And social media, with its relative anonymity, can seem to encourage people to show more contempt and more anger across all areas of life. No, nothing is sacred. Now, given the lay of the land and the state of the world, the apparent state of the world that we're living in, the question for me is, where does the intersection point between spirituality and action lie for each of us individually and collectively? Who do we have to be, and what do we have to do? In his book, A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle talks about a Bible prophecy that speaks about the collapse of the existing world order and the rise of a new heaven and a new earth. Now, while the book was published in 2005, I think that the conversation is still really relative, and maybe even more relative today, 14 years later in 2019. He says, a new heaven is the emergence of a transformed state of human consciousness, and a new earth is its reflection in the physical realm. So what I really invite you to hear is the order of this transformation. The foundation for a new earth is a new heaven, which is an awakened consciousness. That's individually and collectively an awakened consciousness. The earth is only its outer reflection. As within, so without. We cannot continue to look at the world around us and simply move about the pieces and expect for there to be a new world. We cannot continue to do what we have always done and expect for things to change. We cannot continue to look at the issues that we have, the challenges, the problems, the situations. We cannot look at those problems or at those challenges from the level of the problem or from the level of that challenge. We have to remember that the world that we see around us is a reflection of the consciousness of each of us, individually and collectively. Therefore, that is where the work needs to happen. That is the only way that things are going to change, whether we're talking about our own individual lives or whether we're talking about the life of everyone on the planet. Spirituality in action is a call to do the inner work in order to transform the outer. Spirituality is not just an inner experience that gives us this feeling of joy or peace or love. It is not something that creates a way of separating us from the turmoil of the world, or a way of being able to pick up the rug and hide it all in underneath, or a way to use spiritual bypass in order to turn a blind eye to what is happening. Rather, spirituality in action is a call to be in action on behalf of the divine, on behalf of love, not so that we can escape the world, but so that we can co-create the changes that we wish to experience. Spirituality is a call to do what is necessary in order to stay in alignment with the truth of who we are. It is a call to do whatever is necessary to stay in alignment with the spiritual principles that govern the universe. Jean Houston says, "In our time, we have come to the stage where the real work of humanity begins. It is the time where we partner with creation in the creation of ourselves, in the restoration of the biosphere, the regenesis of society, and then in the assuming of a new type of culture, a culture of kindness. Herein, we live daily life reconnected and recharged by the source, so as to become liberated and engaged in the world and in our tasks." This is spirituality in action. It is a call to bring a higher version of ourselves out into the world. The challenges of the world are demanding a spiritually based response, and we are the ones who can do it. However, we must come from a place of spiritual poise. Marianne Williamson says, if you are looking at the world and not grieving, then you're not conscious. If you're looking at the world and not rejoicing in the miraculous possibilities for healing it, then you're spiritually immature. We have to be able to do both in order to be able to make a difference. We have to be able to see what is, and we have to know the truth. It would really, there's just no other way that it can happen. We have to be able to see both, to be able to see what is going on, to not deny it. Ernest Holmes would never deny that this is going on or that is going on, but we have to be able to see the truth behind it. So the invitation is to really be willing to look at the bigger picture through spiritual eyes, to really loosen our grip on our own ideas, thoughts, and beliefs, and be willing to at least listen to another idea or another thought or another belief. The invitation is to really see beyond the world of effects to the spiritual world that is back of it, behind that veil, behind the fog. The challenges of the world are demanding a spiritually based response, and we are the ones that can do it. However, we have to do it from a place of our oneness with God and our oneness with everyone and everything on the planet. It would behoove us to remember that we are the other for somebody else. And how we treat each other should always be based on how we want to be treated ourselves, with dignity, with respect, with an open mind. Got an amen from the front. The invitation is to recognize within ourselves when our perception or our responses are based on some automatic thought pattern, perhaps based on some old belief that we've had for a long time that is really no longer serving the life that we want to live. Seeing others as the other is just a way of seeing them, and we can choose. We have the ability to choose some other way to see them. So the invitation is to really look for the common ground. And I promise you that if you look for the common ground, you're going to find it on many different levels. And at the very least, we all have to remember that we are all divine emanations of the divine, without exception. And we just said that, without exception. So we have that one really deep underlying connection that will never change. The bottom line is really that we are all a part of one big community, one race, the human race. And the only way that we will ever heal whatever is going on the planet is to recognize and to live by that truth, that we are one. The challenges of the world are demanding a spiritually based response, and we are the ones that can do it. However, we have to do it from a place that is grounded in spiritual principle. Here at the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, we believe that we create the experiences of our lives, that we live our lives from the inside out. We cannot expect to experience anything that we are not willing to be ourselves. If we want more peace in the world, we have to be more peaceful. To be or to experience more peace, we cannot act or react from a place of doubt or worry or confusion. We cannot act or react from a place of judgment or anger. I'm sure you'll agree with me that the world has been trying it that way forever and ever, and it has never worked, and I'm here to tell you it is never going to work. If we want more love in the world, we have to be more loving. To be and experience more love, we cannot act or react from a place of fear. Only love can build bridges. Only love can smooth the rough roads. Only love can heal even the most hardened heart. The challenges of the world are demanding a spiritually based response, and we are the ones that can do it. However, we have to do it from a place of compassion. Oriah Mountain Dreamer says, having compassion does not mean indiscriminately accepting or going along with others' actions, regardless of the consequences to ourselves or to the world. It is about being able to say no where we need to without putting the other out of our hearts, without making less of a fellow human being. Compassion doesn't mean that we don't care about things or about people or about the planet. We still can experience really strong emotions or strong passion and can be really deeply involved with people. However, we learn to maintain perspective. We learn to be able to see things from a higher view or from a bigger picture. Compassion, with compassion, we are able to be with others. We're able to listen to their pain. We're able to walk in their shoes without getting overwhelmed. What I know beyond a shadow of a doubt is that compassion is a God quality. It is who and what we are at our very core. It's a mighty, moving force for good in the world, and it starts right where we are. Now, we might think that we're only one person and that we, being only one person, really can't make that much of a difference. But the truth is that we can and we do each and every single moment of each and every single day. The invitation today is to be willing to be a positive, to make a positive difference. Be willing to allow yourself to be moved by compassion, and then just really sit back and watch how it changes the world. The challenges of the world are demanding a spiritual response, and we are the ones that can do it. However, we have to do it from a place that is for something and against nothing. If we were to take a moment to really think about it, the fundamentalists and extremists across the spectrum of activism are more often than not against something. Against energy has a certain vibrational level that really does not allow for things to change, does not allow for positive solutions to make themselves known. A better context for us to act from would be the context of being for something. Being for something has a higher vibrational level, one that allows and attracts the allness of possibility that Cindy sang about. It's an energy that compels us to ask different questions, to look for ways to bridge the separation and to bring about positive change without making anybody wrong. One of my favorite teaching stories is about Mother Teresa, who was asked if she would participate in a rally against war. And she very gracefully declined, stating that no, she could not participate in a rally against war, but that if they were to ever hold a rally for peace, she would be more than willing and honored to participate in that. So the invitation is to remember that energy follows intention. Energy follows intention. Being motivated by those things that you do not want to happen only creates more of the same. It is so much more effective to be for something and then to act from that context. The challenges of the world are demanding a spiritual response, and we are the ones that can do it. However, we have to do it from a place of discernment. Discernment is the ability to see through falsehoods and through distractions to the inner, deeper truth. Discernment is perception in the absence of judgment. Perception in the absence of judgment, with a desire to listen for spiritual guidance and understanding. Reverend Jim Lockhart, who is a CSL minister, says, when we get lost in the tangle of warring ideologies, when we lack the emotional maturity to rise above the taunting crowds, we cannot see, much less experience, the truth. We develop the kind of confused consciousness that will use violence to attempt to gain peace. True discernment is knowing when to speak and what to say, when and how to act, and when to sit in silence. So we must be able to see the dysfunction that is around us, to do the inner work to be sure that we are not simply projecting something out into the world that actually belongs to us. cultivate the ability to see the truth beyond our perception, be willing to do the spiritual practices that keep us in alignment with alignment and centered in our own divinity, and then, and only then, to act from that place. The thing about spirituality in action is that it doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be something that attracts the attention of the entire world. Every time we choose love over fear, we are being the essence of spirituality in action. Every time we stand for something rather than being against something, we are being the essence of spirituality in action. Every time we choose to see the face of God in someone and work to build bridges rather than walls, we are being spirituality in action. Every time we choose to spend some time in silent communion with our inner divinity, our inner wisdom, we are being the essence of spirituality in action. Every time we bring that which we wish to experience to the table, we are being the essence of spirituality in action. I believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we can individually and collectively find that intersecting point between spirituality and action, between being spiritual beings and living as human beings on the planet, between our inner world and our outer world. I believe that we can find that place. I believe that this community can support each other as we do so. Now is the time, and we are the ones that can do it. And so it is. Please turn within. Please turn within in prayer with me. With my eyes closed and my attention turned inward, I am really acutely aware of the power and presence of the divine that is within me. That spark, that light, that unconditional love. I know that it is who I am at my very core, that it is that which created me in a moment of unconditional love. I know that that presence sustains me, fuels me, guides me, guards me, supports me, and loves me. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is the truth of each and every person here this morning, each and every person at home that is listening in. We are all divine emanations of it, the space and place of peace and joy and love and creativity and wisdom and grace. And it is from that place of unity that I speak these words for each of us this morning, individually and collectively, knowing that truly we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation. That we are living in both worlds, and that we have everything that we need within us to navigate that. That truly there is a way that we can be in the world compassionately, lovingly, present to all that is happening, and yet knowing the truth behind it. Being a stand for that truth and bringing it powerfully into our own lives, into the lives of our families, into the lives of our communities, and ultimately knowing that that spark goes so far and so wide that we can't even begin to imagine how many people we touch each day. And so I claim for each of us that we know who we are, that we bring that forward, that we choose love over fear, that we choose to create from a context of being for something and not against anything, that we honor each other, respect each other, see the face of God in each other and in every living thing on the planet. I truly believe that we can live in a world that works for everyone when we live our lives from that place. Knowing that we create the experiences of our lives, we can create lives that we love. With a little attention and intention on bringing forward the divine presence. And I'm so grateful to know this truth and to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that they are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and release them with love and gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation, letting go and letting God be God. And I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves and for each other and for our community and for our world simply by saying, and so it is. And so it is. Amen. Thank you all very much.